Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you all are doing great. A very happy and prosperous Holi from my side to all the viewers. So today in this class we will be discussing about two types of voices. First one is an active voice and second one is an passive voice. So at the end of this video you will be able to convert the active to passive and passive to active sentences. So in order to know about this complicated topic, let us first know about the meaning of voice. The voice of a verb tells whether the subject of the sentence performs or receives the action. It means whatever is happening in a sentence, that is determined by its verb. And verb, as we all know, it is an action word. So if we'll see further, then we can find that there are two types of voices. First one is an active voice and second one is a passive voice. If we can see on this slide, then you can find that there is an active voice example written here. Ram sings a song. So in the active voice, the subject performs the action expressed by the verb. Ram is the subject here, sing is the verb here, and song is the object here. So three things is combined. First one is subject plus verb plus object. So if we combine this three thing, we can frame the sentence like Ram sings a song. So here the action is done by the subject Ram. Opposite, if we'll see, then same is done in passive voice. Passive voice, subject receives the action expressed by the verb. It means that subject is receiving the action, whatever is done in the sentence. For example, a song is sung by Ram. So can you see the changes? Let me tell you the rule. Subject plus verb plus object is the rule of active voice. And while you are converting it from active to passive voice, it will be reversed. Means object will come first, then verb will come after that, and subject will come at the last. So can you see the difference between both the examples? So in the first example of active voice, if we'll see, then Ram sings a song. It means the subject of the entire sentence is performing the action. But in passive voice, the action is being performed by the subject, but the subject comes at last and objects come as first. Alright, so let us move forward. There are some rules of conversion from active voice to passive voice. So how to convert an active voice into passive voice? Let us see. The subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice. If we are converting the active voice into a passive voice, then subject will also be converted, means they will be placed. Then object in the active sentence becomes the subject in the passive voice. This is the rule number 1. Means active sentence will consider the subject first and passive sentence will consider the object first. The rule number 2 is put by in front of the subject in passive voice. It means whenever we are converting the active voice into the word by will come in front of the subject. Then the third rule is the following pronoun are used in the passive voice. If we'll see here, one chart I have prepared for all of you, that I will be me, I will be converted into me, me will be converted, he will be converted into him, you will be converted into you, we will be converted into us, she will be converted into her, they will be converted into them, it will be converted into it, who will be converted into whom. So only the rule for some of the pronouns like it, then second is you, the second person, they will remain consistent and rest all will change. Let us move forward towards our next slide. Now we'll see that there is no passive voice of present, past, future, perfect continuous sentences. If you have not seen, dear viewers, then you can just go to the about button and check the latest video that I have made on tense. And in that video I have explained each and every concept of tense along with an activity. So if you have not seen that video, then you can just go and see that video in order to get simplified about the different rules of tense. So whenever we are changing an active voice into a passive voice, at that time we are not considering a single type of sentence which is present, whether it is past or whether it is perfect continuous tense. At that time no rule is used. Then generally passive voice can be made of transitive verbs, verbs which have an object attached to them. At that time we are using this full conversion thing. After that, if we'll see, sentences of an intransitive verb cannot be converted into passive voice. For example, if we'll see, they laughed. So in this sentence, they laughed, there will be no passive because it is an intransitive verb. And if we'll see the transitive verb, they laughed at. So the teacher was laughed at by them. As you can see the example here, the teacher was laughed at by them. This is the example of intransitive verb conversion from active voice to passive voice. Now in the first sentence there is no object, thus it cannot be converted into passive voice. As the object is absent in the first sentence, they laughed, that is why we cannot convert the active voice into passive voice because this is an transitive verb. Okay, in intransitive verb, whenever we are converting, at that time we should pay attention to the rules. But in the second sentence, teacher is the object, thus its passive voice is possible because the teacher is there, the object is present in the sentence. That is why it is possible that we can convert the active voice into a passive voice. So let us move forward. So this was all about the rules of changing the voice of active voice to passive voice. Now we will be discussing about how to change a passive voice to an active voice. What are the rules? Let us see. The subject of passive voice becomes object in an active voice. If we'll see, children, then what we can explore, that in the active sentence, means in the active voice, the subject will become the object and object will become the subject. But here completely different thing will happen. The subject of the passive voice will become the object in active voice and the object in passive voice becomes the subject in active voice, as I told you earlier. Now remove the preposition by. If you are changing a passive sentence, if you are changing a passive voice to an active voice, at that time you need to remove the preposition by from it. Then use the first form of the verb. As you know, children, whenever we are converting an active voice to a passive voice, we are using the third verb form. But now we are converting the passive voice to an active voice. So we will remove the preposition by first, then after that we will use the first form of verb. Means the third form of verb will be converted into the first form of verb here. Now let us understand the conversion from active to passive voice with the verb sing in the following form of tenses. Means if you have not seen the video of tense, then you can just see my video that I have uploaded on tense, because it is very important to understand the concept of tense if you are understanding the active and passive voice. And the same thing will be there if you are going to understand the concept of direct and indirect speech, the next video which I am going to make. So if you have not seen, then you can go and watch it. So let us see what the tense tells us. Here are the tenses. On the left hand side I have written all the tense, then the verb, then the active and passive verb. Okay, so in simple present, sing will become sings, and while conversion to passive voice, what we are doing, we are using the verb like is, am, are with the first form of verb. Okay, then simple past is sang. Okay, simple past active voice, if we'll see, then the first form of verb will be used, sang. Then sang will be converted into sung when we are converting the active voice into passive voice by using the auxiliary verbs like was and were. Now if we'll talk about simple future, then sung is already written here, the first form of verb. The first form of verb will be converted into the third form of verb along with shall or will be. Okay, if we'll talk about present continuous tense, at that time is MR, the auxiliary verb will be used along with the first form of verb, that is singing, because it is present continuous tense. So along with the first form of verb sing, ing is also used. So now is MR plus being plus the third form of verb, that is sung, we will use. When we convert it into passive voice, then is MR plus being plus sung will be used. Then if we'll talk about past continuous tense, was, were along with the first form of verb will use in active voice, and the third form of verb will use in the passive voice. Then if we'll see the present perfect, has or have sung, then in passive voice has, have, been sung. Then if we'll see the past perfect, then had sung, then had been sung. If we'll see the future perfect, active voice, will, shall, have sung, and in the passive voice also, will, shall, have been sung. So I hope it is clear to all of you. Now let us see some interrogative sentence. Let me tell you children, what is an interrogative sentence? The sentence which ends up with a question mark, or the sentence in which a question has been asked, it is known as interrogative sentence. Now rules for conversion of interrogative sentence in passive voice. What are the rules? How to convert? Is, am, are. Interrogative sentence starting with these three auxiliary verbs, at that time what we will do is MR plus subject plus third form of verb plus by plus object will be taken. Let me give you an example. In the active form, is he writing a letter? क्या वो एक खत लिख रहा है? Is he writing a letter? If we'll convert it into a passive form, then the sentence will be like this. Is a letter being written by him? Okay, now let us see about do and does. If we see the do and does, the passive rule is MR plus subject plus third form of verb plus by plus object. So how will frame the sentence? In the active voice, does he need a pen? क्या उसे एक पेन की ज़रूरत है? Then in passive voice, is a pen needed by him? Can you see the difference here? While converting the active sentence into a passive sentence or an active voice into a passive voice, the first means the auxiliary verb is coming first, after that the object is coming, and at last subject is coming after the preposition by. So let us move forward and see what are the another. Did. If we'll see the passive voice, was, were plus subject plus third form of verb plus by plus object will be used. For example, did Ram write a letter? Means क्या राम एक खत लिख रहा है? If we'll convert it into a passive voice, then was will come first, then letter will come after that, then written by him. Can you see? Was means the auxiliary verb will come first, because in this sentence you are going to ask a question. So if you are going to ask a question, always it should end up with a question mark. So was a letter written by him will be the correct form of sentence. Then was and were. How to use was and were? In the passive rule, was, were plus subject plus the third form of verb plus verb your by, then your object will be used. Then if you see the active example, was she cooking food? क्या वो खाना पका रही थी? Then how to convert it into a passive voice? Was will be as it is. Then food being cooked by, was she cooked by her? Okay, here her is missing. Was food being cooked by her? क्या उसके द्वारा खाना पकाया जा रहा था? So like this you have to convert it. Now let us move forward. Let us see some model auxiliary verb. May, can, etc. As you can see, these are the model auxiliary verb. What are the functions of model auxiliary verb in the conversion of active to passive rules? Passive rule, if you'll see, then modal auxiliary plus subject plus be plus third form of verb will be used along with the preposition by, and at last we'll use the object. For example, active voice, if we'll see, can she control this situation? क्या वो इस situation को control कर सकती है? If we'll convert it into a passive voice, then can the situation means the modal auxiliary verb will be as it is, then will first bring the object here. after bringing the object to the first sentence, then we will controlled by her, means along with the preposition by, object will be first and then subject will be at the last. Can the situation be controlled by her? Question mark at the end. Then WH words example why, when, where, etc. What is the passive rule? The sentence will start by the WH word and then convert according to the above rules. For example, who broke this beautiful glass? Now here you can find WH word is written here, यानी कि किसने उस beautiful से glass को तोड़ दिया. So by whom means the preposition by will come first here, then whom will come. By whom was this beautiful glass broken? Means without changing the meaning of the sentence, you have to convert the sentence from active voice to passive voice. Okay, so let us move forward. Okay children, now let me tell you what are imperative sentence. Imperative sentence are those sentences which express order, request, advice or suggestions. These four things makes the imperative sentence. So while you are converting an imperative sentence from active to passive, what are the rules? If it's an order, for example, passive rule. In the passive rule, let plus subject plus be plus third form of verb will be used. For example, this is just a structure as I have written here children. This is just a structure. Let plus subject plus be plus third form of verb is just a structure. How you have to apply this structure? Example, active, shut the window. अगर किसी ने आपको command दिया, if anybody has given you the command to shut the window, at that time you will be confused, you'll get perplexed that how this sentence will be converted from active to passive, because here object is there but the subject is missing here. Shut the window, it's a kind of phrase but it's an order. So how to convert an order from active to passive, let's know. So in the passive, let word will be used. Let the window be shut means let the window be shut. By this we will convert the passive into active or active into passive. Now let's see about the request. Passive rule, you are requested plus to plus the first form of verb will be used along with the object. This is the rule. How to apply this rule? In the active sentence, please open the door. A request has been made by someone that please open the door. How will you convert this active sentence into passive voice? In order to convert, you will write here, you are requested to open the door. So can you see the difference here? You are requested is the word which we are using while we are converting the imperative sentence request. If it's a kind of imperative sentence, you can find it by reading that sentence, that whether it's an imperative sentence or not. Because if an exclamation mark is there, then the sentence is exclamatory sentence. If it is an interrogative sentence, then you can quickly identify it by observing the question mark in that sentence. But if it's an order, if it's a request, if it's a suggestion, or if it is an advice, then you can easily identify it and put it in the category of imperative sentence. So in the imperative sentence, while you are focusing on converting a request to a passive sentence, at that time you should keep in mind that you will use the word you are requested along with the object and subject. You are requested to open the door. Alright. So let us move forward. As you can see here, now it's a suggestion here. Suggestion, whenever we are giving a suggestion to someone, at that time how we will convert the active voice into a passive voice. Passive voice is written here. While you are converting the active into passive, subject will be used, then should be will be used, then third form of verb should be used. Let us see the example. Always speak the truth. हमें हमेशा सच कहना चाहिए. So how we will convert this active voice into a passive voice? The truth should always be spoken. यानी सच्चाई हमेशा कही जानी चाहिए. As you can see here. Now advice. Passive rule is that you are advised to then object. It means if we'll see the example, work hard. Okay. In this two letter, in this two word, if we'll see work hard, we cannot find any subject and the object here. So how we will convert? It will be difficult for anyone to convert this active voice into a passive voice. First you need to identify the type of sentence. If you know about imperative sentence, then you can quickly convert the advice into passive voice just by a simple rule that is written here. You are advised. It means तुम्हें suggestion, तुम्हें एक advice दिया गया है, तुम्हें एक सलाह दिया गया है. क्या सलाह दिया गया है? What is given here? You are advised to work hard. तुम्हें advice किया जाता है कि तुम कड़ी मेहनत करो. Okay, so the sentences which express the state of mind or feelings, we don't use by in them. तो ये एक ऐसा सेंटेंस है जो कि हमारी स्टेट ऑफ माइंड या फिर हमारे फीलिंग्स को दर्शा रहा है. सो इन दिस टाइप ऑफ सेंटेंस वी आर नॉट यूजिंग द वर्ड और वी आर नॉट यूजिंग द preposition by. Alright, then sentences starting with there. What is the rule here? Passive rule, there plus be plus the third form of verb along with the subject. Now you see active. In the active voice, there is no milk to waste. So now here in this sentence, there is no subject, but it is begin with the word there. So how to convert this active voice into a passive voice? Let us see. There is no milk to be wasted means up to this, means up to the first part of the sentence will remain same, and only the thing that we are going to change is to be wasted. There is no milk to be wasted. There is no milk to waste. Okay, that is the active sentence. If we'll convert it into a passive sentence, at that time we will convert it by writing there is no milk to be wasted. So these are the examples and these are the rules that I have told you about two types of voices, that is active voice and passive voice. So I hope this video will be useful to all the viewers. Thank you so much. Now give me the permission to exit. Bye bye. Good night.